It is 6 o'clock in the morning on this Wednesday, March 27th. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Greitlow. Thanks for coming along here. We'll get the show started in 6 minutes on the Civic Media Radio Network. So if you're watching this on playback, you get to run this video ahead 6 minutes for a show that's going to include this week's Climate Check Report with Melissa Baldoff, talking about how several utility companies in Wisconsin have pledged that the clean energy jobs of the future are going to be done with high-quality union labor. In our second hour, we are jam-packed in the first half hour. We're going to be talking to former New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu. He's the Biden campaign's co-chair and a former Biden senior advisor on infrastructure, and he's touring some of the infrastructure projects going on around the state being funded because of administration efforts. We're also going to visit at 7:30 with a few more school board members running for office next week, Tuesday, Election Day, and making one more pitch to you to go vote on Tuesday in all of your local races and the statewide constitutional amendment races as well. So just so much to talk about, along with Todd Alba as well, Brittany Merlot's forecast, Greg Bach, and more coming up at 6:06. We'll see you in just a little bit. Wednesday morning, Thursday morning. Thursday morning on Up North News Radio. Our Women Win Wisconsin spotlight on another local leader trying to make a big difference by running for state legislature. Thursday morning on Up North News Radio, our Women Win Wisconsin spotlight on another local leader trying to make a big difference by running for state legislature. And here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Wednesday morning, March 27th, 2024. Another beautiful day to have you here up north from wherever you're listening as part of the Civic Media Radio Network. I got a question for you. Would you buy a Bible from Donald Trump? He's hawking them this week, a special edition of the Bible, the God Bless the USA Bible during Holy Week. We'll talk about that and more, much more coming up along the way today. In fact, let's just get right into it. Later this hour, our weekly climate check segment with Melissa Baldoff, talking about how the local, especially rural governments that could benefit the most from clean energy jobs are sometimes the ones that choose to be an obstacle to those projects. But also we'll talk about how several Wisconsin utilities have pledged that the bulk of their future green sector jobs will be done with quality Wisconsin union labor. A busy second hour, we're first joined by former New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu. He is the former senior advisor to the White House for infrastructure matters. He's now a co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, and he is touring Wisconsin talking about all the various investments being made by the administration, from big bridges to small fiber optic lines. And then we will visit with some more school board members and candidates about what's at stake across Wisconsin when voters go to the polls next week. Next Tuesday, April 2nd, is the spring general election for local nonpartisan races. It's also the presidential primary. It's also got statewide constitutional amendments, two of them that absolutely have no business being in the Constitution, and deserve a no vote next week when they come up. To reach us, as always, our phone number is 855-75-CIVIC, 855-75-CIVIC. You can call it, you can text it, you can use the app to text us, and you can put comments on Facebook. A growing number of folks doing that, just checking in with where you're listening, what you're doing, what the weather's like in your neck of the woods, as Al Roker would say. We'll take it all. I'll tell you about the weather in terms of current temperatures right now here on Lake Wissota. Well, basically everybody is 20 degrees colder than yesterday. So if you need to plan for the bus stop or for the commute and hadn't checked the temp yet, keep that in mind. It's 20, sometimes 25 degrees colder than yesterday. It's 17 here on Lake Wissota, 16 in Hayward and Park Falls. Wausau checking in at 19 degrees, Green Bay 26, La Crosse 26, Wisconsin Rapids is at 22 degrees, Madison reports 26, and it's 27 degrees in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where we find at the studios of WAUK Mr. Greg Bach, who's giving himself his own high five and thumbs up. It's good to be your own hype man sometimes. You got to do what you got to do.
Did you know that Flavor Flav of Public Enemy's original name was DJ MC Flavor Flav? He was the total package.
I don't know that I've ever seen his birth certificate, and I think that's a very cool original name.
DJ MC Flavor Flav the Fourth.
Esquire. No, it did not know that. And what led to this random observation?
Because you said I'm my own hype man, so I figured if you're the MC, you're the rapper. If you're the DJ, you're the hype man. Or actually, the MC was the hype man. Sorry, hip hop history right there. So I'm the whole package. You only need to pay one guy. I'm available for kids' parties.
I learned so much from you youngins, I tell you. We are both at work, which tells you that we are not the winner. And there was a winner of the Mega Millions jackpot last night. Somebody in New Jersey won $1.2 billion.
Hey, the money just fell off a truck. What am I talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
So congratulations, random person in New Jersey. However,
congratulations.
You know what? The 865 million ain't so bad either, and that's what Powerball is up to tonight. So I know I've got my ticket for that one. Dreams cost $1.
You are not a regular lottery player, right?
I'm not. No,
okay.
I used to be.
Yeah.
And I played the same numbers all the time. It was a playoff of all the numbers that I picked were in both our daughter's birth dates, Sherry's birth date, and our grandkids' birth dates at the time. But that was with only 2 grandkids.
Yeah.
And as I was playing them, you felt almost duty bound to play them, because imagine the one time you hear, oh, somebody won $1 billion and the winning numbers were 3, 7, 10, 27, 30. And I'm just like, no, those are my numbers. I should have won that. So I kind of wanted to save myself from the angst. So now I just pick up one random one now and then when I see the jackpot is getting ridiculously high. Not that I couldn't use a mere $200 million, but hey, to get my money, you better bring it closer to 865 million.
It's a very interesting statement. People say that all the time. Like, I only play when it gets to a certain point. Okay. As if I didn't walk into your office and be like, oh, I had $2 million, but I heard you only play the lottery when I'll go next door. I'll see if they want the money. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I couldn't possibly use that.
No. $2 million. What a pittance.
Mm-hmm. Second episode of Top Chef Wisconsin is tonight, so I'm sure I'll be peeking in on that.
We get to hear from Luke tomorrow about it. We get our show report.
Yes, we have our own special correspondent, a special Top Chef correspondent. And I when he said, through office chats and email, that he was a big fan, I thought, okay, well, that's really nice. But boy, when he was on with us last week, you can see he's really a fan. He really likes that show.
I am jealous of that. I don't know I don't watch those competition shows. I don't watch any of those. I mean, I'll watch Chopped here and there, but I'm never into it enough to be invested. Or like my friends who love Drag Race, like they can talk about it with a professorial milieu, if you will. Like they can just get into it. I'm sitting back going, I'm just gonna look at my phone.
Well, remember Survivor used to have all kinds of folks doing all the recaps and looking through the intrigue. And the one that sadly I have to remember here is when I was evening anchor at Channel 13 here in Eau Claire. So you're sitting in the newsroom and the TV is on and you're watching NBC, like it or not. And so for a couple of years there, as we're prepping for the 10 o'clock news, what are we watching? The Apprentice with Donald Trump. Having no idea what the world would look like today with Donald Trump. And that's where I gotta ask you, have you seen, like I said at the top of the show, have you seen that he's hawking Bibles now?
You mean the God Bless America Bible?
The God Bless the USA Bible. He's doing it in partnership with Lee Greenwood. So
shut up. It's not. You are not.
No. And so apparently Lee Greenwood, the money must have run out from the song, because now he's looking to sell Bibles with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence included for the God Bless the USA Bible, which can be yours for $30 plus shipping.
Oh, I thought it was 60.
Or 60, I'm sorry. And I mean, I was very tempted to play some of the audio. I might still later at first I really thought, I read it, I'm like, is this The Onion? Is this a joke? And then I see the video. I'm like, wait, is that AI? No, that is actually Donald Trump talking about this big, beautiful Bible.
If Donald Trump narrated it, and God created woman, and she was really hot, and she was the most beautiful. She was from New Jersey.
Yeah, but then he gets to some of the stuff in like Leviticus that you're not supposed to do, and he'd just be like, I'm just going to skip this part.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next page.
I don't understand these big words.
Yep. He announced late yesterday that he's going to be holding a rally in Green Bay. And by rally, I don't mean like over at Lambeau Field. I believe it's over at the Hyatt Regency. It's at a hotel, and it's on April 2nd, which is both the home opener for the Brewers, but it's also Election Day in Wisconsin. So I don't know if that was chosen on purpose. All I can say to the good people of Green Bay is get the money up front, because Trump had to cancel a rally recently planned for Arizona because they don't have enough cash, hence the hawking of Bibles and sneakers. So Green Bay, the folks at the hotel, whatever it is, you better get paid up front, because there's still so many outstanding bills from 2020 and 2016 where local governments, provided security and overtime and everything else. But that's what we're going to see is Trump finally coming here after after the president, the vice president, the first lady, cabinet officers, we're talking to one of the top advisors in our next hour. They clearly have been paying attention to Wisconsin. They're not going to make the 2016 mistake again. And I think at some point somebody tapped the Donald and said, you need to get to Wisconsin. So I will be looking forward to what he says when he gets here.
Oh, me too. Can't wait.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that coming up in the next segment as well. Last thing I was doing before turning in last night was catching what I thought would be the end of the Bucks game. They were playing the LA Lakers at Fiserv Forum, and I'd peeked in on it once. Fourth quarter, Bucks were up by 19 on the Lakers. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. When I looked one more time, the Lakers had just tied it, and it was going to overtime. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. I'm going to miss that one. And it's kind of a good thing because they also didn't settle it in overtime. They settled it in double overtime, and the Bucks, up by 19 in the fourth quarter, lost in double overtime to the Lakers, 128-124. That was even without LeBron James on the team. And it was even with Giannis getting, his ninth triple-double of the season. 21 points, that's a season high, or 21 rebounds, that's a season high. 29 points, 11 assists. But he also missed 2 free throws with 24 seconds left. So the Bucks lose to the Lakers, and they are next playing at New Orleans tomorrow night. You can catch that game on Oshkosh Air Support, News from the Center, Lake Aaron Amory, WRJN and Racine, locally grown radio in Wisconsin Rapids. But Greg, the most important thing is that opening day for the Brewers is tomorrow. The baseball season is finally here.
Oh, thank God. And we're going to be talking about it next Tuesday, me, you, and Jane on Matinee on Air. I cannot wait. When we were talking about who to have from Civic Media, I'm like, I first said Luke, and then I realized, because he's a big fan too. And then I realized, oh my God, Pat's been talking about it for weeks. We got to get Pat. And we got you, and I'm looking forward to it because I'm going to the game on Tuesday, and I'm really looking forward. This is my first opening day in years, pre-pandemic.
Good. No, I'm looking forward to talking about it. Yeah, the home opener will be next week, Tuesday. I'm a little bummed that Garrett Mitchell's going to be out for a while. He had just come back from the one injury, and now he's got a fracture in his hand. I really thought this was going to be it. And one other quick sports note, the NFL has changed its rules on kickoffs to the point where there probably won't be kickoffs anymore. So we're taking just some more of the foot out of football. We'll explain that a little later as we get closer to football season. But we're going to unpack the news a bit more with Trump's Bibles and so much more on Up North News Radio on this Wednesday morning, March 27th on the Civic Media Radio Network. Has a birthday today. Where are we at Mariah Carey, Mr. Bach? Fan, not a fan?
Oh, big fan.
Okay. You never know. She could be, what coconut and what did we determine yesterday was just a little bit
Peeps.
above coconut? Peeps. Yes.
Peeps,
so
yeah.
Mariah Carey, not coconut or Peeps. She's on
No,
she's in the plus column.
I am not like an a number one fan, but I won't turn her off when she's on the radio, and I enjoy her music. And she is the singer of one of my most favorite modern Christmas songs. So
yeah, yep.
I just enjoy her, and it's weird. I've never met her, and I'll probably never meet her, but every once in a while I'm like, I hope Mariah Carey's doing okay.
You know why that's a valid thought? Because this is somebody who, from a very young age, when she was discovered, was kind of what's molded, groomed, whatever.
Groomed. I always say
by the head of the record company at the time, and of course, then they started a relationship with the big age difference. And you always, you do worry that somebody comes into the business somewhat innocently, and when they're this much of a diva now, it's like, okay, are you diva good or are you diva? Ugh, I don't even want to be in the room with you. So I could see where you're hoping for diva good.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
I love that. We're hoping for diva good.
So we have examples of that. We know, we understand. If you want to reach us, 855-75-CIVIC to say where you are. Why are we mentioning Mariah Carey? It's her birthday today, and we'll have that and much more coming up in today's history lesson in just a couple of moments. Some parting words on Trump selling God Bless the USA Bibles now. This, especially during the Holy Week, this is such a special week for so many Christians. And it just strikes me as, literally is a term that gets overused, but it can compare so favorably to money changers in the temple, and I'm wondering where are the evangelical Christians? Where are the mainline conservatives and Republicans on this? Are they going to speak up, or are they so cowed now? Are they so cowering in a corner because of him and his base and his followers? Because I would ask you then, just imagine Hillary Clinton selling God Bless the USA Bibles. Imagine Joe Biden selling God Bless the USA Bibles. Imagine Barack Hussein Obama, as Trump always refers to him, hawking Bibles like something on one of the shopping channels. This from a wife cheating, adjudicated rapist, misogynist, a proven grifter. The Trump Bible, which is essentially what it is no different than Trump steaks, Trump water, Trump University, Trump vodka, Trump Airlines, Trump Magazine. These are all real things. These are some of the many business failures of Donald Trump. And while each individual business was a failure, each time he launched one of these failures, he got more publicity. And it was how he built a brand. He built a brand on failure, but also on name recognition. And honestly, anybody interested in shelling out for a Trump Bible, you might as well shell out $400 for those new Trump sneakers. The ones painted gold, the color of an infamous calf that should be remembered this week as a warning about putting too much stock in false idols. Just keep that in mind. Elections next week also include a county board election in La Crosse. I wouldn't normally bring up a single county board seat race in La Crosse County, except to note that in this article from the La Crosse Tribune, one of the candidates is one of the fake electors who sure is backpedaling from the agreements that the fake electors made to acknowledge that what they did was wrong. Bill Feehan was a Republican elector in 2020. He was then serving as La Crosse County Republican chair. He stepped down from that role last year, the Tribune reports, but still serves as the 3rd Congressional District Republican chair. Now, the fake electors reached a settlement in a lawsuit, acknowledging that they knew that what they did was used to try to overturn the will of the voters in 2020. But to see Bill Feehan's remarks makes me wonder if maybe he had his fingers crossed behind his back when he signed it. Because here's how Bill Feehan tells the story to the La Crosse Tribune. Quote, "I think that people deserve to know what the truth is, and the truth is I was not a fake elector. I was a Republican elector. I was called to the state capitol. to protect the votes of 1.6 million people who voted for Donald Trump. We were not fake. We did not forge documents. And I have never said that Donald Trump really won the election in Wisconsin. And I kid you not, that all came out of his mouth, word for word. And he probably believes it. To which I would say, dude, I mean, I know Trumpers fall for a lot of what they hear, even if it's different than what they see with their own eyes. But we see the documents, we see the signatures on there, and they are forgeries because they were turned in. They were filed with the people that you would send one of these documents to when you had no basis upon which to sign your name to a fraudulent document. This was not some kind of insurance policy. Something like this had never happened before, because in a democracy, the side that loses accepts the will of the voters, moves on, and tries to win the next election, rather than planting rumors and working to undermine the actual vote count of the Wisconsin voters. But you couldn't do that. You chose to go down a fraudulent route. When you say, I was called to the Capitol, you could have said no. You chose not to. You put your name on those forged documents. They were filed, and you did have to acknowledge afterwards that you knew that Joe Biden won this election. And so I just hope that when people go to the polls next week, that we don't see somebody saying, well, this La Crosse County Board election for the District 1 seat is rigged somehow. No, it doesn't work that way. If you lose, you lose. And then you try to win the next election with your positions and not with your tactics and not with your lawsuits. Briefly, before we get to our climate check update, the Supreme Court did consider yesterday the case involving mifepristone, the abortion medication, and I was somewhat surprised at how much skepticism was put out there, not just by the liberal justices, but by the conservative justices as well. They all seemed very skeptical that this route could be taken, that the particular group bringing the lawsuit that somehow made it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court has never been forced to administer mifepristone, has never been forced to commit any kind of procedures that could be construed as abortions. But yet they still wanted to get rid of this based on their values and beliefs and try to force that upon everybody else. And the justices essentially called them out on it. But I have to say, I'm a little skeptical of the conservatives' skepticism, because much like Roe v. Wade, they always strike me as people looking for an answer first, and then they'll construct the legal question around it. So we'll see how they rule in that case. Melissa Baldoff coming up after Pam Yankee and the Midwest Farm Report, all along the way here on this Wednesday morning. When you're here up north. We'll be back.
Playing with my mind.
Welcome back. Melissa Baldoff is with us, as she is every Wednesday morning, for our climate check update. Couple of topics today about the green energy jobs of the future, the cleaner energy that it's going to make, the economic development that it's going to bring to some areas. Not all areas, because some areas are actually kind of obstacles to the future green economy. Melissa, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing all right.
Okay, so we're going to have some good news about the jobs of the future in just a bit, but we're going to start at the other end of things, and that would be the obstacles to green energy projects. And there was a really comprehensive report put together by reporters from the Des Moines Register, and then the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel picked it up as well. The headline was "U.S. counties are blocking the future of renewable energy," and they showed about how 15% of the counties in the US have effectively, halted these are large scale wind, solar, other projects. There might be bans, moratoriums, construction impediments. This is not to make all of those out to be, bad things, Melissa. It's good for people to have concerns, but I think people maybe might be a little surprised at how many counties have gone down this road already.
I think so. And, I think that we, have heard a lot about, very coordinated opposition, at the federal level from some big corporations. Obviously, starts at the top of the Republican Party with Donald Trump being very hostile to clean energy. And, that is a huge threat. And I think in some ways, we've kind of, some of us have missed maybe some of that more local, smaller scale opposition, which can really be some of the biggest roadblocks, to having, making this progress. And, in that USA Today analysis, like you talked about, the number of counties blocking solar power, it's almost equal to the counties adding it. So, if you've got this kind of opposition, even at this, small micro level, when so many counties or localities are doing this, it's really going to stand in the way of progress. It's not even a, you know, two steps forward, one step back. It really sounds kind of like a two steps forward, two steps back when you've got so much opposition. And it's really ramped up, in the past couple of years that this opposition has really, really started to ramp up.
Well, I certainly saw it as a legislator, 15 years ago, when we were really starting to see wind energy take off. And as the article notes, the opposition to these kinds of projects is not simple left versus right. And I've acknowledged this here a couple of times as well, that there are plenty of people who, favor renewable energy, but they either get kind of a NIMBY, not in my backyard attitude when it's closer to home,
Mhm.
or they just have genuine concerns that have to be addressed. And I kind of want to do that with you next, Melissa, is to say this is not necessarily a partisan issue all the time. Sometimes it's just an information shortage.
I think it's an information shortage very often. And I think it is also an overabundance of misinformation and disinformation, not to suggest that there's a correct amount of those two things, because ideally there should be none. But I think that, when you kind of are in this vacuum and people aren't learning enough about the positives and about the ways that this kind of energy production, while it's new, is going to help them in their communities in the long term without causing any harm. If there's a vacuum in that, delivery of information, it's really easy to be filled by the bad actors who don't want to see that kind of energy move forward. And I think that's really a great risk for us all. Like you said, there are some concerns and folks who are worried about, what are the setbacks like? How loud is this going to be? How is this going to affect other development? It's not it's not wrong for them to have concerns. It's not wrong for them to ask questions and want that information. The problem becomes when they are getting disinformation about the health impacts of wind energy, for example, which we've seen out there.
Right.
So we really want to make sure people are getting the correct information and understanding the net
Right.
positives.
And so, now having conceded the point that this is not necessarily, a left versus right issue, it does take us back to the politics of it, that there are plenty of people who may have been ambivalent on the subject, considered themselves conservatives or Republicans, and as the Republican Party mostly, and certainly Donald Trump and others explicitly come out against renewable energy, that to them it's like, well, I guess that's my team, I guess I'm against this now, when it really should be pointed out to them that the opposition at those high levels probably does have a lot to do with the very large sacks of money that the fossil fuel industry is able to pump into Washington lobbying.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes, I think, for some, sometimes I think it makes for some strange bedfellows when you see some of the different people or organizations that are aligned on opposing some of this kind of development. And I think that it it really speaks to the need to get out there and tell these positive stories and talk about all the benefits of clean energy and how it is going to improve our lives and really counter that disinformation and misinformation and that fear too. And I think that, and again, that's not wrong for people to have fear or concerns about how things are going to change and be different. But we've got to counter that with accurate information about what's possible and why this is
Yeah, and there
the clean, healthy path forward.
right, and there are plenty of projects in the pipeline already. Pardon the pun. For example, just
Hmm.
solar projects in Wisconsin. There are about a dozen under review by the Public Service Commission. Another 40 are getting closer to that point. And those 40 projects could create upwards of 10,000 jobs. There are wind projects, including two under PSC review, and at least four more in the pipeline that could create another 1,100 jobs. So the job creation potential is there when they can work with people at the local level to green light these projects. And that takes us to our other story this week, and that when those jobs are created in Wisconsin, many of them are going to be very good paying union jobs. This is quite an arrangement that some of the state's large utilities and several large labor unions have come to terms with. What's it about, Melissa?
Yeah, this is a really, I think, incredible story when we, so many times, like you said, we talk about the bad news, but this is something that's really good news. Is that Wisconsin's four major utilities have come to the table with a pledge with our state building trade unions to announce really a historic commitment um, to use local union workers in the construction of the utility scale solar, wind, and battery developments that these utilities are going to be making all around the state. So this is really a big win for workers and for the economy to know that we are going to have Wisconsin folks on these projects. We're going to have high labor standards on wages, on benefits, on training opportunities. Um, and that's good for consumers too, because they're going to get a great product out of Wisconsin's union
Yeah,
workforce.
I mean the plans that are already out there include 10 gigawatts of solar and 4 gigawatts of battery storage, and a little over a gigawatt of wind, all added to the state's power grid by 2030. And in all, they're saying some 19,000 construction jobs could be required to do all this. It's an agreement between Alliant Energy, Madison Gas and Electric, WEC Energy Group, and Xcel Energy. And the arrangement is worked out with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters, Wisconsin Laborers, Wisconsin Operating Engineers. And I think, again, for these large scale projects, to have them union made, yeah, it's good for the paycheck, but I mean, I get such a better feeling about the quality of these things, so that when we come back to talk about the local projects and whether a local government wants to be a help or a hindrance, I think knowing that these
Mhm.
are things that are going to be built right and built by Wisconsin construction crews,
Right.
not something shoddy and out of state. I don't see how that's anything but a net positive.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be it's exciting to know that we're going to get these projects done on time and on budget with a great trained workforce that is committed to training the next generation of workers. And it's going to be so good for our economy. There was a recent study by the Midwest Economic Policy Institute and UW Whitewater's Fiscal and Economic Research Center that the investments and associated tax credits under the Inflation Reduction Act, for every $1 billion invested in clean energy in Wisconsin, that would create 2,700 jobs, $1.63 billion in economic activity, and $153 million in state and local tax revenues when we've got these local workers on the job. So that is an incredible boon for our state economy, for our local economy, along with being, great for workers and great for the communities that are going to be building these projects. So this really is, I think a significant win. I think it is something that really, we haven't seen a whole lot of other places. I don't know for sure if any other states have done this, but from my understanding, this seems like a pretty big deal, to paraphrase the president.
Well, speaking of the president, yes, the Biden-Harris campaign took note of this. They put out their own statement about this arrangement and included plenty of references to ways that former President Trump has either disparaged unions and union workers, how he's been working more toward, tax cuts for billionaires, and, essentially pointing out the ways that he has been not just anti-union, but anti-worker. And again, people kind of maybe they wanted to memory hole the chaos of that time, but the Trump administration was not a good time for unions or workers in general, frankly, especially all that promise of an infrastructure week that never showed up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really been, one of the many positive changes, between the former administration and this one, is that when President Biden has an infrastructure week, it's because he's investing in infrastructure all over this country, investing in communities, investing in jobs, investing in workers. It's not the joke that it was under the former guy. And when we see, partnerships like this coming together, I think it really, helps drive home the point that proponents of the Inflation Reduction Act have been making all this time, that this is about moving forward together on the clean energy economy. This isn't about imposing these draconian standards on businesses like the naysayers want people to believe, that it's going to be holding businesses back and holding the economy back. This is something that we are seeing industry many people, not everybody, but many people want to be a part of this because they know it's good for the economy, it's good for jobs. So I think hopefully this will be an example for other states, for other utilities to raise their hands and say, hey, we want to commit to this kind of partnership as well.
And by the way, we'll close with that you've mentioned a couple times here, the Inflation Reduction Act, where so much of the future jobs in clean energy sectors are being born from the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. You've got Donald Trump, who's saying he's going to repeal that, just like they say they're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act, again, with no alternatives there. And although I still think, and we've talked about this before, the Inflation Reduction Act, should have been called something more like Build Back Better or whatever. It is that thing that Democrats got done in the last Congress that is leading to this explosion in that sector, the jobs, and now the union jobs that will come to Wisconsin with all that investment. Melissa Baldoff, thank you again. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
And we'll be back with more after this. You're Up North.
I've got to move.
Melissa is back.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Great. So nice to have you here.
Yeah, good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Not loving the snow and the wet so much, but you know.
Yeah.
Is that Broadway star? but can I even call you that, or do I have to refer to you by your last name now? I mean,
Yeah, I prefer Miss K.
I won't even look at you. All right.
She actually trademarked it. We have to call her Special K now.
Oh!
Kaboom. Noise.
Yes. Here we go. Come on, who's not bobbing their head to this? It's 6:51 now on Up North News Radio. And as the Supremes sing Stop in the Name of Love, which hit number 1 this day in 1965, we welcome back to the program after a 2-week absence, Melissa K., everybody. Welcome
Hello,
back.
hello.
We missed you so much.
Oh, I missed you guys too.
It's so true, but as Greg rightly pointed out, we thought maybe that you were finally on Broadway. You know, you just decided to take your shot after that
You know,
play.
it's funny that you started with this song because this is one of the first songs I performed on stage when I was in show choir in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Me too. No, I'm just kidding. Wow. Well,
That
Did
would
you
be
have
funny.
like matching outfits, like matching dresses, and you had the
Oh yeah,
and
lots of
gestures and-
sequins. Yep. Was stop in the name of love.
oh,
like
she
it,
still,
you
she
had the
still
whole-
knows the dance.
just that
Very
part.
nice. All right. Let's see. We played Mariah Carey a little earlier. Let's hear her again on this, her birthday, as Mariah Carey turns 55.
But it's just a sweet, sweet fantasy, baby. When I close my eyes, oh,
So we were talking earlier, Melissa, about Mariah Carey and how, you know, there are divas and then there are divas, and you know how we're hoping Mariah Carey is still got some remembers her roots, shall we say?
Yes.
Based on her persona that she puts forward on air, I'm thinking no. I'm thinking like if you don't bring her just the bowl of green M&Ms, you know, she'll throw the bowl out the window or something. But I could be. None of us know her. I don't know.
no.
I
just
feel like
want her
she
to sing.
exists. I feel like she exists on a diva plane where she's probably really nice, but she doesn't understand like, you know, like if you said, "Oh, I really like this thing," or like I like this book, she would buy you every single book that's ever been written by the author and have a sit down with the author, rather than just like give you a regular present because she can just afford to buy you. Like she just buy you a horse.
I believe Greg has confused diva for fairy godmother. But you know, if somebody's going to grant wishes to you, I like that.
She could be my fairy godmother any day.
Yeah, absolutely. Director Quentin Tarantino is 61 today. Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas is 49. We'll hear from her in a little bit. The number 2 song on this day in 1976, because that's as high as it got, was by Gary Wright. I can never hear this anymore and not think of Wayne's World.
Of course.
And Dana Carvey as Garth when he sees, who is it that he sees?
Kim Basinger.
Okay, and yeah, he just gets, you know, there's Vaseline on the lens, it's all gauzy, and he's just like, oh. On this day in 1986, I wasn't sure this was going to work, but Sammy Hagar made his first appearance as the new lead singer of Van Halen and gave us tunes like this.
It's got what it takes. So tell me why can't this be love?
So they started touring in Louisiana this day in 1986 and then cranked out a few hits like this and Right Now and others. And I don't know. I guess I don't have enough old people sitting around a round table here for us to talk about whether we thought it was going to work or not. But it did. further time.
I mean, if forever put a chasm in the history of Van Halen.
Yes. Yep. I mean,
A
you're
deep,
either team
deep
David
chasm.
Lee Roth or yeah.
Are you Van Hagar or Van Halen?
right?
Ooh.
Yeah. But it also gave me this opportunity to share with you guys that particular song, Why Can't This Be Love, has one of the worst song lyrics ever. When he sings, "Only time will tell if we stand the test of time."
Ooh.
And we're like, are you kidding me with that? So it got some of us thinking a couple of years back, what are some of the other worst lyrics? And I brought up Neil Diamond, who gave us the line, "No one heard it all, not even the chair." Yeah, Neil Diamond also gave us, or no, this was Elton John, who gave us, "If I was a sculptor, but then again, no." Okay.
Yeah, I changed my mind.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep it in the song. So along with bad lyrics, which you can text us at 855-75-CIVIC or put some comments on Facebook if you like. This also is Quirky Country Song Title Day.
Heck yeah.
Oh.
So along
there's
with
so many of those.
quirky lyrics, we get quirky song titles, and we played one of them yesterday. She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy by Kenny Chesney, which made Greg laugh. Billy Ray Cyrus, I Want My Mullet Back. Toby Keith and Willie Nelson, Beer for My Horses. Travis Tritt, Here's a Quarter, Call Someone Who Cares. Joe Nichols, Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off. Big and Rich, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. Trace Atkins, Honky Donk Badonk. Those are all fine. They're quirky. But I went back deep into the memory banks, and here's George Jones with The Winner.
The bridge washed out, and I can't swim, and my baby's on the other side.
I just remember being like 12 years old, and this comes on the radio, and it's during my parents went through their urban cowboy phase, and I'm just like, wait, this song is seriously called "The Bridge is Washed Out, I Can't Swim, and My Baby's on the Other Side," and that's all it was. That's what the song was about. I'm like, we're not going real deep on this stuff now. We're just.
And I can't swim, and my baby.
I mean, if you want some great ones too, Little Jimmy Dickens, like "Made the Birds of Paradise Fly Up Your Nose."
Oh, sure. Yep.
An honorable mention, Roger Miller. You can't roller skate with a buffalo herd.
Oh, yes.
I love Roger Miller.
Yeah, he's great. We have his record, one of them.
Yeah.
All right, so you were off for 2 weeks there. What you been up to, and did you have a nice break?
It was a nice break. We were out in Arizona, and I got to drive a Jeep through the desert.
Nice.
Also got to experience driving on the Kansas Turnpike with, I don't even know how many foot RV, 28 maybe RV, hauling a trailer with the Jeep on the trailer. So that was an experience. But we survived. Obviously, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the desert was
Unless
beautiful.
you've been replaced.
That's possible.
And then the rest of the run of the play went well?
Oh, it did. It did.
Okay.
We had great audiences, great crowds. It was kind of a whirlwind because a lot leading up to that and then jumping on a plane and ending up in a desert in bloom because they have had so much rain out there. The desert was completely green. It was really weird.
Oh,
That's
cool.
It was
weird
cool.
and bad. I don't know. No idea.
It's nice to have you. It's just nice to have you back. We're glad you had fun.
Yeah.
Roger chimes in on Facebook that he thought it was Donna Dixon who was Garth's dream woman in the movie, and he might.
Oh,
be
you
right
know
on
what?
that.
He's right. It was Donna Dixon in the first one, Kim Basinger in the second one.
Oh,
Isn't Roger always right, though?
well, he's
Yeah,
got the
I'm not-
luxury. He's not yapping for 2 hours. Like he's got time to look this stuff up, So we like that. He's kind of like our
Fact checker.
editor. There you go, Melissa Kay. So glad you're back here. Have a great day.
Good to see you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Mitch Landrieu from the Biden-Harris campaign about infrastructure investments in Wisconsin. You're up north.
The other foot solid on the ground.
Bye.
Bye, Melissa. Thank
Have
you.
a good day.
So glad you're back.
Glad to be back.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
All right. Where's Greg? Greg, come back. There he is. Here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Back with you at 7:06 on this Wednesday morning, March 27th. It's Little Red Wagon Day. It's American Red Cross Giving Day, International Whiskey Day, World Theater Day, Spanish Paella Day, which is really delicious if made just right, and Manatee Appreciation Day. Read into that whatever you want. Coming up later this hour, we're going to talk to more school board members and candidates about what's at stake in Wisconsin's local elections coming up next week, Tuesday. In a couple of minutes, we're going to talk to former New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu, who is co-chair of the Biden-Harris Campaign Committee, a former senior advisor to the White House on infrastructure matters, as he tours Wisconsin to look at some of the infrastructure investments being made by the Biden administration. But first, it's time to tell you the key word this hour for the Ride into Spring contest. And that's where you take that Civic Media app that hopefully you've downloaded on your smartphone. Go to the app, look up one of the stations like 93.5 The Tap in Chippewa Falls. Use the text feature and text this keyword, and that's how you enter the contest. Text the keyword BIKE, B-I-K-E, BIKE. Text that now, and you are entered for one of 4 daily prizes, an overnight getaway to Chula Vista Resort in Wisconsin Dells. And you're also entered to win among the grand prizes, a 3-in-1 blender, new bicycles, outdoor patio furniture. So again, that is BIKE is the keyword to text us through the app. And your next chance to win is at 10 a.m. and then again at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. All right, let's get the forecast now. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot is standing by on a day when temperatures are all about 20, almost 25 degrees colder than yesterday, Brittany, where a lot of folks are in the teens and the low 20s, but I sense a bit of a warm-up is on the way.
Yeah, so right now this morning it is crisp, it is chilly. Those winds are still whipping up to 35 to 40 miles per hour, especially in the southern half of the state. So yes, our temperatures ranging from about 12 degrees to 30 degrees really feel like 0 to 18. So it's a crisp morning out there. We are still seeing chances for lake effect snow into Bayfield and Ashland area. They could get another 2 to 4 inches. And if you didn't know, they got nearly 18 inches as of 5 o'clock yesterday. So huge amount of snow still falling over there for them as the winds continue to whip out of the west-northwest today. So it is going to keep us on the cooler side of things. High temperatures will hit the mid-30s until Milwaukee, Madison, but everybody else is going to stay below freezing, especially north of the Dells. We are going to be looking at temperatures into the upper 20s to even mid-20s into Wausau and further north. So a little chilly here today, but we will slowly warm things up as we close this week out. So every single day, getting a touch warmer. Otherwise, mostly cloudy and calm today besides those winds.
All right. And from Rob in Tigerton, we not only get weather, we get traffic and weather together.
Ooh.
He says it's cloudy and 21, wind chill of 8. He says 0.3 of an inch of rain from Monday night to Tuesday morning. And then it tells us that Highway 15 from New London to Appleton will be closed April 1st for the completion of the highway from New London to Appleton to a 4-lane highway until early November. So there's your traffic and weather together on the 9s. And I, for one, am glad that that's finally going to be 4-lane from New London to Appleton, because I do take that stretch, have taken it quite a bit. So nice to see the roadwork season is getting underway here. We'll be seeing more of those orange barrels before you know it.
Oh, it sure is. This gives me an idea, though. I think you guys should send me up in a chopper. Weather and traffic.
We can only, sorry, Brittany, we only have a budget for a weather balloon.
Okay, I'll take it. How about a hot air balloon?
Hot air balloon.
No, you misunderstand. Remember the movie Up and the old
Yes.
guy with the handful of balloons? That's really all we got. So if that
Okay.
works for you, then you're in.
We're going to give it a
But there
go.
will be an old guy saying climate change isn't real.
There's always got to be some old grouch there. Thank you, Brittany. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
You too.
All right. Late yesterday, I had a chance to talk to Mitch Landrieu. He is the former mayor of New Orleans. He is the co-chair of the re-election campaign for President Biden and Vice President Harris. And he has been the senior advisor on infrastructure matters. And this former mayor is out and about around Wisconsin visiting with other mayors and other local officials about some of the infrastructure investments that have been made through everything from the Inflation Reduction Act to the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law. And when we started our conversation, we couldn't help but note what had just happened in Baltimore with the tragedy of the ship running into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And so I begin my conversation with Mitch Landrieu talking about how infrastructure is not something we should ever take for granted.
Well, yes, that's true. And listen, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Baltimore. I talked to the governor of Maryland this morning, Wes Moore, who's great. The president has been on the phone with him and all of the other officials in Baltimore and in Maryland, as well as Secretary Buttigieg has been on the ground all day yesterday and then is there today. The president made a commitment that he's going to be there with them until the end. The president, is always runs to the fire on these things and is going to be there with that community, as he would, by the way, in Wisconsin or any other place in the country where that happens. And he's been just great in terms of emergency response. But it does point out how important his mission was to rebuild the infrastructure in America. You may recall that, the presidents of the last 50 years have tried this. Donald Trump talked about infrastructure week all the time and was never able to even have one infrastructure day. And of course, President Biden passed $1.2 trillion investments in rebuilding the roads and the bridges and the airports and the ports and the waterways, making sure that everybody in America, especially people in rural Wisconsin, have access to high-speed internet, clean water, clean air, and a clean energy economy. And so where Donald Trump failed, President Biden delivered. And so it is a sad moment to have to think about this in such stark relief of why it's important that we reinvest in our bridges, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why President Biden brought $1.6 billion to help build the Blatnick Bridge in the northern part of this state, as well as the other $6 or so billion that he has sent to Wisconsin to help with the other infrastructure things that I've talked about. So yesterday and today, I've been in Milwaukee. I've been in Racine. I'm heading to Madison as we speak. I'll spend some time in La Crosse and Wausau, working with the mayors of those communities and highlighting the real benefits that people of Wisconsin have gotten from the president's investments. And remember, this isn't 4 years ago. The president's been here 9 times. I've been here at least 5 or 6. The vice president's been here many times. The cabinet secretaries have been here. I think Secretary Granholm is in the state. If not, as we speak, she was here yesterday. So Wisconsin's critically important, not just for electoral purposes, but it's a critical part of the economy of this country. And the president wants to make sure we lift everybody up in Wisconsin.
And when we think of like big superstructure bridges, like in Baltimore, and we think of the Blatnick Bridge in Duluth, and we have equally noteworthy bridges, the Hone Bridge in Milwaukee, we have one in Green Bay for the ports there. That's the big, almost sexy infrastructure that people love to talk about. The president's been there a couple of times now with the Blatnick Bridge in the background, but you really get down in the weeds, and I mean right down into water lines and sewer lines and where the internet goes and the electric buses. I mean, that's a lot of plates to keep spinning.
Yeah, but listen, first of all, I was here some time ago in Madison with a series of 6 bridges, the John Nolan bridges in Madison that we rebuilt. But, look, governing is about getting your hands dirty and being on the ground where it really matters. This is what the president thinks about every day. And this is why he and Trump are so different. Trump wakes up every day thinking about himself, thinking about, the top 1% in this country, hoping things are going to trickle down to the bottom, not delivering on promises that he's made, leaving people behind. and then kind of spending all of his time talking about retribution or revenge. That's not what Joe Biden does. And I've had the great joy of working with him for the past 2 years in very close proximity and watch this guy who's full of vim and vigor, and is really ready to go and making it happen in very specific ways. And look, let me give you, real life examples. I was in Milwaukee not too long ago, outside of the home of citizens, with a woman named Deanna Branch, who's from Milwaukee, who had 2 kids, Jaden and Aiden, who got sick from drinking, nasty water out of lead pipes. We were actually fixing the pipes to the houses in that neighborhood. Today, I was in Racine. The mayor there did an unbelievable job of taking American Rescue Plan dollars and apportioning them into programs that help young people get into jobs in City Hall, help people get GEDs, put people actually back to work. I'm going to Madison right now to go to a facility that's being built with $6.8 million of funds that Joe Biden sent down to make sure that members of the Hispanic community have what it is they need to lift up their family. So this is a guy. Joe Biden is a guy that talks the talk, he walks the walk, and he has the receipts. And this is to be juxtaposed. And then this is just straight up, this election is going to be about a choice. You can go be with a guy who wants to tear everybody down. You can be with a guy that's going to lift everybody up. You can be with a guy that's going to talk, that doesn't deliver anything, or you're going to be with a guy that actually has changed the lives of the people, specifically in Wisconsin, in a real meaningful way, on the ground, where it matters, where they live, putting more money in their pocketbook, helping them pay for their kids' education, creating high-paying union jobs. And by the way, just as an example, yesterday the utilities in Wisconsin agreed to a deal with the unions to provide 28,000 jobs to rebuild all of the renewable energy projects that are going on in this state. That's high wages, that's high jobs, that's generational wealth. That's real deal stuff for the people of Wisconsin. And that comes courtesy of Joe Biden's, use of the presidency on behalf of the people of this country who elected him.
There he is. That's Mitch Landrieu, former mayor of New Orleans. We're going to have part 2 of that conversation coming up in just a couple of moments here. First, a little sports at 7:17. The Brewers open up the season tomorrow in New York. They'll be taking on the Mets, and you can catch Brewers baseball on these stations across the Civic Media Radio Network. News from the Center in Richland Center, WRJN in Racine, Oshkosh Air Support, and 98Q Country in Park Falls. The broadcast tomorrow begins at 11:35 to get the Brewers' 2024 season off the ground. The Milwaukee Bucks had the Lakers on the ropes last night at home. They were up 19 points in the fourth quarter. Then the Lakers found some energy that the Bucks could not tap into. They tied it, forced the game into overtime, then into double overtime, where the Lakers came out on top 128-124. They will next play tomorrow night in New Orleans. When we come back, more of our conversation with Mitch Landrieu about how Republicans have been reacting to the many infrastructure projects that are going up around Wisconsin and around the rest of the country. And then we'll be talking about the importance of school board elections in our next half hour. Wherever you're listening around Wisconsin on this Wednesday morning, when you're here, you're up north, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas, who has a birthday today, turning 49. You can catch all the musical birthdays and history notes in today's history lesson every morning at about 6:50. In the daily newsletter from Up North News, you can get a primer on Top Chef in case you missed last week's season premiere of their Wisconsin season. Learn more about it and get set to tune in tonight for that. Now, part two of my conversation with Mitch Landrieu about infrastructure investments by the Biden administration all around Wisconsin. So tell me, as somebody who's certainly seen your share of politics, you're now co-chair of the campaign, and in reading about what the president is doing for infrastructure. And you mentioned the Hispanic community a moment ago. And there's a note about how Republicans actually sent the president a letter. They were concerned about, as it was put, excessive consideration of social equity, climate change, and union jobs. And
Yep. They sure did.
we mention all the time on this program when they're attacking DEI, and before that it was CRT. And my thought has always been, what are you guys offering other than, again, I was surprised to see it again. They want to keep going back to the well and saying, well, we don't want to talk about the climate. We don't want to talk about social equity. And when clearly the president thinks it's part of any infrastructure agenda.
This is not, I can explain this to them, but I can't understand it for them. All right. This is really simple. Diversity is a strength. It's not a weakness. The more people that we have participating in the economy, the more all of us are going to do better, because diversity is an economic growth strategy. If you got to find people to do the work, and you want to find the best people, and you want to find the best and the brightest, you want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate in the jobs that are going to be created. Number one. Number two, what kind of begs the question is they always forget that they didn't create any jobs. The president has created 15 million jobs. Donald Trump lost 2.5 million jobs. The president wanted to bring manufacturing back to the country. He's brought 800,000 manufacturing jobs. So a rising tide lifts all boats. For the life of me, I don't understand why folks on the other side of this issue don't want women and people of color, the Hispanic community, and by the way, white working class people to have jobs. Now, the president has created these jobs through his policies because he's trying to build an economy from what we call the bottom up and the middle out. That is working class people getting the opportunity for the jobs and getting the benefit of having high paying jobs. The other side wants to give a tax break to the top 1%, which are basically 500 millionaires dollars plus, and hope that it gets down to everybody else, and it never does. So the proof is in the pudding. And I think the people of Wisconsin are really smart, and they understand this. Even people that voted for Trump before might have voted for him with a little hope that he was going to show up to help them, and he left them down. I mean, the guy's just an utter failure. And listen, since the State of the Union, by the way, when everybody had the president with a half a foot in the grave, he showed up like Muhammad Ali in the George Foreman fight and basically kind of laced everybody. And for the last 3 weeks, has been traveling around the country delivering on the promises he made, while Donald Trump has been in his basement, down on his knees, looking under the sofa for a nickel to make bail or to get bond for one of his programs. That's what's going on. This is a fight.
He won 2 tournaments at his own golf course. Let's not forget that.
And I beat Michael Jordan one-on-one the other day in my backyard when nobody was looking.
Lastly, I want to ask you about the mayors that you've been dealing with. We have Katie Rosenberg on a lot from Wausau, Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway from Madison. I served in the legislature with Racine Mayor Corey Mason. Talk about the importance, because we've got local elections coming up next week. So it's not just the mayors, but the importance of having these good local officials on everything from county boards and school boards to the mayor's office. They definitely play a role in the infrastructure work you're trying to do.
Look, Corey's been great. Satya, I'm going to see in a couple of minutes. The president, listen, Joe Biden started off as a local elected official. He was a county executive in Delaware. He really understands. He loves mayors. Actually, he would have been a great mayor. He also understands, and my appointment as infrastructure coordinator was a result of him understanding that you just can't pass a bill and take credit for it. You got to implement it. In other words, you got to get the money down to the ground and into the hands of the people who need it. And the people who do that are the mayors. And he is really intent on making sure that the mayors and the local elected officials actually have the ability on behalf of their constituents to get their money in their hands. So the American Rescue Plan dollars went straight to the mayors. They didn't have to ask the governor. They didn't have to ask their legislators. Now, half of the money went to the governor and the legislatures as well. But the point is that he trusted the local elected officials who are responsive to the people in the neighborhoods. And let me just tell you this. I told the mayor this today. Man, when you go to the grocery store in the morning to get groceries, you know those people grab you and it takes you an hour to get out of there. Or if you eat lunch, you were a senator, you understand this.
Mhm.
When you sit in there, people can grab you because you're accountable. The president understands that because he wants the money in the hands of the American people, because those are the ones who are in power, who sent him there, and that's who he works for every day. So look, when we get down to it in November, the country's going to have a choice. You can be for Donald Trump, who's going to take you backwards, take you to the dark side of life, and it's going to be about retribution, revenge. And by the way, in case people forgot, because COVID messed with people's brains, chaos every damn day. All right? You can have that again if you want it, but that's not really what Joe Biden's for. Joe Biden is for making sure that everybody is included, that we lift everybody up, that we create lots of jobs. And, you know, America finds that promise of fulfilling a more perfect union. That's who he is. And he's just out there. His heart's on his sleeve. Everybody knows who he is. He's full of vim and vigor. He's ready to go. He beat Donald Trump before, and he's going to beat him again. With the help of the people of Wisconsin, I might add.
Mayor Mitch Landrieu, every time I hear you talk, I want to book my next trip to Bourbon Street. Honest to goodness, you are such an ambassador.
Well, you don't like the way I can't talk. You don't like the way I talk.
Oh no,
I talk funny.
I love it. It just reminds me of so many friendly people I've met there.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you come down there, I'll buy you some beignets and some cafe au lait, all right?
You have a deal. Mitch, thank you so much. It was great to talk to you. Safe travels.
See you, Senator. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Doesn't his voice just do that and go, okay, I need to get back to New Orleans. He's James Carville's like well-adjusted younger brother, who you can understand a little bit better. And get yourself a wingman like that, who is going to promote you the way that he does for Joe Biden. That is a man who read his job description.
All I have to say is,
And I'd like that he pointed out the importance of the partnerships with the mayors. We had Katie Rosenberg from Wausau on recently, and you know the money doesn't just show up. It doesn't work that way. You have to make the contacts and the applications. There's hoops to jump through, and so when you've got mayors like the ones I mentioned, you know that's the kind of partnership you want. Now, he talked about Trump hiding in his basement, and since we'd recorded the interview, since that time. The former president announced that he's going to have a rally in Green Bay next Tuesday on Election Day for the local elections. Go figure. But I'm thinking there as well. If you missed it in our first hour, how many Trump Bibles he's going to sell? I'm not even kidding. If you hadn't heard this yet, they're actually called God Bless the USA Bibles.
Yeah.
And I would just urge you. I don't think I want to give him the attention. So you just go look up Trump pitching these Bibles and talking about these beautiful Bibles. If that doesn't do something for you, I don't know what will.
Makes you lose your appetite or cry a little.
Here I've got the antidote for losing your appetite. Let's get it back with some great food. Top Chef tonight, the second episode of the new season. That was shot in Wisconsin, and over at our daily newsletter has a bit of a primer if you want to get into the swing of things and learn more about Top Chef. And on our social media sites, video clips from that 2012 interview we dug up with Senate candidate Eric Hovde and some of his unusual positions and comments. But we're going to get back to the importance of school board elections coming up in our next segment on Up North News Radio for this Wednesday morning. You're Up North. Erica, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I think I'm thrown by the fact that it's now winter and spring when we had spring and winter. So I'm
No kidding.
I know I'm looking out the window and I'm like, no, more.
I know. Eric, are you on the board right now or a
I
candidate?
am.
for
Yep,
the
I'm
board?
an incumbent.
Okay, gotcha. Good. And are those 2-year terms?
3. Well,
Okay.
yeah, 3. I mean, typically, but because we had some appointments, you then you have to run the following year. And then depending on what order you fall in, you might win like the remainder of that seat, which could be 1 or 2 years. So Josh has had to run, we've 3 times in however 4 years, 5 years. So yeah, I was appointed and then got a 3-year term, so it's kind of but typically they're 3.
Okay, got it. And let's see, Josh, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me this morning.
Absolutely. Josh, all right, or do you prefer Joshua?
Josh is good.
Okay, sounds good. And you're an incumbent on the Eau Claire board as well?
Correct.
Okay, just want to double check all that before we get going here, and then we'll be hopefully joined by Laura here shortly. This is our, like I said, our longer break. We've got, another 2.5 minutes or so in it. So while I wait for Laura to pop up, what I'm going to do is pop you guys back into the waiting room. That way you don't have to worry about making noise or anything, and I'll pull you back up when we get the segment started, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, talk to you in just a bit. All right, here we go. Back now on UpNorthNews Radio, just about 7:35 here. On our social media sites, Courier Newsroom national correspondent Alan Piper lays out 3 key facts on Robert Kennedy Jr.'s dangerous and bizarre statements. Also, there's a post there about the history of the NCAA basketball tournament and especially the Wisconsin reason for it being called the Big Dance. So look for all of that on social media. Just search for Up North News WI. All right, it's time for this week's homeroom segment, where we talk a bit about the value of education, public education, how it is supported or obstructed by various parties. And with this being our last of these segments before the April 2nd election, we wanted to talk to a couple of folks who serve on school boards currently about the importance of the role, and how to, or what to listen for when people are running for school board, and try to make sure that you're electing people who are going to be, fully on board with the mission of Wisconsin's public education. And for that, we're thrilled to be joined by two members of the Eau Claire School Board, Erica Zur and Josh Clements. Erica, Josh, nice to have you here. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Now, how long have you each served? Erica, when did you first start serving on the Eau Claire School Board?
I was appointed June of 2020, so excellent time to join a school board.
You frying pan fire. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
How I
Josh,
roll.
how about you, Josh?
I was elected in April 2020.
Okay, so you guys were put right into the trenches, and you're still here, all these years later, and up for seats again. This seems to be the appropriate time to say why, at a time when things could not be more turbulent to be on a school board anywhere in the country, or a candidate for that matter. Josh, we'll start with you first this time. Why continue to serve?
Sure. Well, I think at least in Eau Claire, things seem to have calmed since the experience we had in 2020 and 2021. During that time, I think there was a lot of things that were hot in local and national politics that were of the time. Fortunately, we've largely moved past many of those urgencies of those questions, although their echoes of those still persist. So at least in Eau Claire, in terms of the kind of interaction that I've had with our constituencies, is it's largely about education and questions about what we're doing pertaining to education. But I know that's not the case everywhere, in terms of I hear from our peers and in other communities where there may be fired up about something that we're just not seeing as much right in Eau Claire right now. So I continue to serve because I think it's an important thing to do to advance the community or the community development of our communities. And in particular, we have people who are active in the election area and in politics who don't have the public's interest in mind, or are somewhere along that spectrum where they're seeking to pursue things that are advancing a private interest, or they're a narrow section of our constituency. And I don't think that is supportive of the goals of public education and of public institutions generally. So I continue to serve because I think it's important.
Erica, same question to you. Again, coming in at such a turbulent time where, yes, things have settled down somewhat, but they're still not calm by any stretch of the imagination. So what is it that you see that makes you want to continue serving on a local school board?
Well, the thing is, I think Josh, hinted at this, is that, there's one thing that coming through the pandemic as a school board member brought to me, and that was that, holy cats, look at the importance of public schools in our communities, right? Like they are really the foundation of our economy, they play such an important role in our neighborhoods and our families and when that system is not available or easily accessible, or the resources of that system are not available or accessible, everybody feels it. And so, I think I think we all got this glimpse into the importance of public school and what they could really bring to families coming out of the pandemic. I think that what we saw was gasoline on a fire of a lot of problems that existed before the pandemic, but maybe we didn't quite really see it. So we kind of saw this ballooning of family and student need, right? And I think when need for our families grows, need for our students grows. There were a lot of things that I think we took for granted with schools that kind of like broke something in our family's soul and our kids' soul about what school is and how it works. We see a lot of need, a lot of behavior, a lot of, special, high levels of special education need, high levels of behavioral need, high levels of academic, need to catch kids up. And just how are we going to, continue to build education into something that's, really strong and fantastic and responsive, but also a financial, like we see this big gasoline on this financial fire that we, in Wisconsin, the funding formulas for schools, Pat, like people know this, they're archaic, they're broken, they're not working. So we get this influx of money from the federal government, right? All public schools get this influx of money from the federal government and say, hey, we know you got big problems. Here's some money, go and fix it. But it's finite. You only get it for a few years, and then it's going to fall off. So now we're in these, we still have the need. We're going to carry that need, right? We're going to all the way through these kids' existence with us, right? And beyond. And yet we have a funding wall now. And we're all seeing that. Every public school is seeing the drop off of the federal COVID relief dollars. And it's leaving big, big holes. We're seeing historic, not only amounts of referendums, but frequency of referenda across the state. And we're not in any different state here in Eau Claire. And I just really felt that institutional knowledge of where we were, what happened during the pandemic, and what we really need to keep moving forward for our schools, it's too important that it's too important a mission to step away from it. And I think that's why I'm here.
We've seen in several school districts now what could be described as a conservative takeover. We just spoke on Monday with some folks in the Milwaukee suburbs about WIS Red, a project born of the Waukesha County Republican Party, to very specifically target school boards and install people that they think will embrace more of a political agenda. Is that kind of scenario playing out around Eau Claire as well, as far as you can tell, or no? Josh, what do you see?
Well, I don't honestly know a great deal about the other two candidates beyond what they've shared publicly. So I can't. I don't want to characterize what their motivations are. But I think that constituencies that are active in other parts of the state, like Milwaukee, certainly are active here. At least to date, they don't have a candidate on our board. So, and I'm not familiar with all of the officials in our neighboring districts. So it's definitely something that we should be vigilant about, and ask our candidates what their motivations are and what they would actually do if they were on the board. I think that the least of the reporting I've seen out of places like Milwaukee is they find wedge issues that get people fired up in order to advance a broader and perhaps deeper agenda that doesn't have anything to do with education per se, and is more about a vision of institutions that serve a specific worldview rather than the public's interest. And those things tend to be in conflict.
Well, and not just wedge issues that they bring into a school board race, but money. Some of these districts have seen all manner of out of district money coming in for mailers and for radio ads and things like that. And so again, Erica, you've only I think if I were talking to somebody who's been on a board for 10, 20 years, they could really compare and contrast the cost and the stress of running for school board. But how would you characterize what kind of resources you have to put into running a local school board race compared to what we imagined it used to be years ago?
Well, I'm the wrong candidate to ask, because I've made it very clear to most people, and people have asked to give me money, and I've said I don't raise money. And I do that because I firmly believe in the nonpartisan aspect of school board elections. And so there's nothing that will give away a candidate quicker than political, dog whistles or funding or mass funding. Because I think at the end of the day, every single person wants schools that work for all kids, right? We want healthy public schools. And I think that that's just a universal thing that we share. And it shouldn't just work for, the students of Republicans or the students of Democrats or the students of liberals or the students of Trump conservatives. It should work for all of those kids and all of those families. And I think if voters pay attention, they will see political motivations can very easily be seen in nonpartisan elections. You can very easily access it. I think that, but I do think, we've seen some very hotly contested or more highly contested races here in the last few years. And a lot of money has been raised. Absolutely. And I think it makes school board candidates, incumbents, particularly really uncomfortable because, we're not that far removed from races where you hardly ever had opponents. You hardly ever had to raise money. I certainly did not. My first, I've never raised a cent in any political race that I've done. And I'm proud of that. But I see it. I do see it. It is coming. And I could see it very clearly in more competitive districts, maybe, or smaller districts for sure.
When we'd had your colleague Tim Nordine on some time back about this topic, he talked about the watching out for candidates who appear to be single issue candidates. Maybe it's just books, or maybe it's just taxes, or things like that. So again, moving beyond the Eau Claire School District, Josh, but just speaking to voters at large. What are the things that you want people to see in a school board candidate, or the warning signs in a school board candidate? Because again, they don't run tons of TV ads. It's very tough to compare. So how do you help a voter understand that a school board candidate is or isn't a good fit for the board?
Sure, and it's really difficult if you're looking at a mailer and you see perhaps a dozen words. You really have to do a little bit of homework to find out what are they running about? What is their platform? What do they want to do as a candidate? And if really you can't find much information beyond the one or two issues that you're hearing about, those are huge red flags. Certainly, there's growing concerns that seem to be capturing attention, and you need to address those as a candidate. But you need to have some more depth there to reflect that you've thought about and understand what it means to be a commissioner or school board member or whatever the office is that you're pursuing. Typically, a candidate will have some information that's out there, and at least in Eau Claire, the local media has done a fair job in terms of putting out questionnaires and airing interviews so that people can go and easily, within a few minutes, get a snapshot of what someone's about. And that's really critical in an area where we're kind of oversaturated by information. But if you see yard signs and you go get postcards, those often don't communicate a great deal.
Mm-hmm. I've got under 30 seconds here for Erica to take our last question, but make the case why somebody who maybe isn't thinking of voting, why they should vote in their local elections on Tuesday.
Oh my goodness, because I really believe that our communities depend on local elections. I'm from a small town, Northeast South Dakota. I've been in Wisconsin now for 16 years, and I can just say that every community I've ever lived in, it's your local government, it's your local people, it's the people you run into at the concert or at the farmer's market or when you're on a walk or when you're gardening or whatever it is. Getting to know those people are what make the decisions that most affect us on a day-to-day basis. So get to know those people, vote in your local elections. It's super important to the function of our communities.
It's just that, everybody can ramp up that civic engagement, which is what we're all about over here as well. Erica Zur and Josh Clements, thank you so much for telling us more about your time on the Eau Claire School Board. Wish you all the best. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Todd Alba, you're up north. All right. Josh, thanks again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it and enjoyed it.
You bet. Good to see you. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.
Mr. Alba, how are you?
I am well. How about you, Mr. Kreitlow?
I'm very, very well. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Very, very well. Wow.
Going forward, to remember to make sure that song starts at 30 seconds.
Yes.
Greg Bach, how are you?
I am peachy darn keen. I've just been cutting audio in between interviews and doing.
He's a worker man. He's a worker man.
What a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing the things.
Pardon me.
All right. See you in a few seconds.
Thanks.
One more from birthday girl Mariah Carey to bring in our own civic media diva, Todd Alba, is here. And again, we talked about good divas and bad divas, and you're clearly a good diva, generous and giving, but you're not allowed to look him in the eye most of the time.
Yeah.
You see him in the hallway or something.
Mr. Alba, here is your cafe au lait.
And then back away with your head bowed. Yes, I know.
That is so absolutely not me.
That's true. How are you?
Good. I was listening to the last segment, and look, I'm no Wisconsin Education Network member. I'm no school board person. I'm certainly not a superintendent of public schools. But let me give listeners a little tip. If you're looking to vote next week in school board elections, if the candidate's theme song is "We don't need no education," probably not the person to vote for.
You really hit the nail on the head with that one, Captain Obvious. All right.
Because that's a double negative, friends.
That's right.
But you know, there are. I'm not sure about this time, but I have seen in the past people running for a board of education, and they don't say those words, but sometimes that's basically the platform. Like, you know, it was fine when we had a one-room school back in my day. What do we need computers for? I mean, really.
No, we actually had that. We had that in Eau Claire way back now, in the early 2000s, where a candidate specifically, a self-described fiscal conservative, was wondering out loud through his whole campaign, why do you need computer labs? Why do you need computers in schools?
Wow.
It was, I know. Yeah. You just put your hand to your forehead, and that's how a lot of the rest of us were as well. And so you're looking for people who are forward looking and, again, compassionate about the job, and you hope you get that from people. If you get instead the thing of it's all about taxes, or it's all about accountability, or parents' rights, or something like that, those are your red flags.
I thought your guests last segment were so good, and I would just echo it. I mean, really look for people, to use what you said, Pat, who are committed to the job, because I do think there are people that run for office, we've all seen it, that think, oh, this is easy, and they don't quite understand how much reading, particularly in school boards, go into this, all the state regulations, all the federal regulations that school boards have to adhere to. And it's not just showing up to a meeting every other week and voting. There's a lot of research if you want to do it well. So people who are committed and understand the seriousness of it are folks that I try to look for.
I wonder if, coming back to the topic we had earlier, I was hoping the first thing you were going to tell me was how enthusiastically you went online to buy your Trump Bible after he started.
And the thing is, I used to be like, when the song first came out, I was a big Lee Greenwood fan. And what the heck has happened to that guy? I mean, he's drank the Kool-Aid, bought the T-shirt and the hat, and seen the movie.
Here's Roger chiming in. Roger, writes on Facebook, I have lost all respect for Lee Greenwood since he's pushing these Bibles on his website.
Yes, me too.
Said, Roger.
Yeah. I lost respect for him somewhere in like 2005. Like that song before pre 9/11, and like maybe a year or two after. Oh my God, I'd be in tears when I heard that song because it's just beautiful. And then after a while, you're like, ugh, this song again. Quit coloring your beard.
That was a random criticism here, but
I have hard opinions on men coloring their beards.
Okay.
Well, clearly I do not. So.
Yeah, right. I just could not help but, I mean, the irony of hawking Bibles that are called God Bless the USA Bibles, during Holy Week from somebody with Donald Trump's background. it is a miracle of biblical proportions that lightning did not strike as he was recording, that particular ad.
I don't know. I'm kind of I'm a quiet person of faith, and sometimes I think God delays the lightning a little bit. So there are some things coming up this year, the Trump life, trials and whatnot. I mean, maybe the lightning will be a bit more subtle in Mr. Trump's life. But yeah, I mean, I don't care who it is. I've never in my life remember a politician of any stripe, color, or party hawking a Bible for
it's never
money.
happened.
It's
such a
beyond the pale.
grifter. Again, Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Airlines, Trump Magazine, Trump Water. This is just the latest incarnation of that.
But I gotta say congratulations to him, because Steaks, Magazine, Airline, all that stuff fails. Shoes, NFTs, Bibles, success. They all sell out. They all sell out. They all make some. I don't know if they make him money. They make somebody money.
They pay the legal bills, which is really what this is all about. I don't know if you got to hear our segment earlier this hour with Mitch Landrieu talking about infrastructure and things, but boy, from having been in politics and me as well, you need people around your team who are so mission driven and so consistently on message. And I remember that from his time as mayor of New Orleans. There are just some people, they know the job. Well, as a mayor, and then as maybe somebody else's spokesperson or whatever. And, they don't, at no point do they make it about themselves, and try to do self-aggrandizement over there. And it just reminded me, you and I have met and worked with so many people in the state capitol that fit that mold perfectly, because then you meet the ones who don't. It kind of throws your day off. But there's still a lot of good folks in that building.
There really are. And when you say that, I guess the first name that comes to my mind, and a lot of people won't recognize the name, but perhaps I think the biggest unsung hero in state government is Bob Lang, the director of the State Fiscal Bureau. And people say, oh, the treasurer? No. The revenue guy? No. Or gal? No. Bob Lang is someone he's been there, 30, 40 years, Pat, at least, something like that. And he's still getting it done, by the way. And he's managed to navigate when both parties have been in control of the legislature and the governor's chair. And it's really his nonpartisan organization, the State Fiscal Bureau, who basically helps write the actual law of the budget. And you never know where Bob is politically. He just gets it done and serves the people of Wisconsin.
He is the very definition of an honest broker, which is what people from both sides of the political spectrum need when you're talking about support staff in order to do your job. That's what makes it so depressing when you see things that had been above board start to lose their tarnish their reputation. And I'm thinking specifically of the Legislative Audit Committee and how, that audit committee, you were just dedicated to the mission. And unfortunately, a few too many GOP legislators have tried to politicize that, but we'll have to save that for another day because Todd Alba's got his own show to prep for from noon to 2 today.
Yes, I have a copy of the new Trump Bible here, and I'm just that's my morning devotional. Remember, according to the Trump Bible, thou without sin shall not cast the first stone unless I have gotten a tan. So there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Alba.
The new Trump Bible.
Thanks to all of you for joining us as well. Up North News is the Wisconsin digital outlet for Courier. Find out more at couriernewsroom.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.